Today we will talk about post-colonialism and its element in the Shadowlands by Amitav Ghosh.
That sounds amazing. Do you want to share something about the topic? Or perhaps explain what post-colonialism is?
Post-colonialism or post-colonial with a loose note allocates a set of theoretical approaches which center on effects and consequences of colonization. It is the decolonization of the mind. It challenges the received and ideologically determined paradigms of power relationships and free the colonized self from gaze of colonizer.
So, where did this literature originate?
The canon of post-colonialism may be said to have originated in the mid-20th century text of Frantz Fanon, I.M. Kesare, and Albert Memmi. However, it is with the text like The Empire Writes Back in 1987 by Ashcroft et al., Orientalism in 1988 by Edward Said, and the Encyclopedia of Post-Colonial Literature by Branson et al., that post-colonial studies became an institutional endeavor. These writers, through their above-mentioned books, coined the term post-colonial literature to indicate the doctrine of colonial literature and popularize it.
So broadly, it refers to the ways in which race, civilization, culture, and human identity are represented in post-independence period of many colonized countries. Up to the later half of the 20th century, countries like India, Jamaica, Nigeria, Senegal, Sri Lanka, Canada, and Australia won independence from their European colonizers. The art and literature produced in these countries after their independence has been labeled as post-colonial, and hence a new term, post-colonial literature, is coined to suggest decentering of colonial literature. This field gained prominence in the 1970s and has been developing ever since.
Who are some of the prominent writers of this genre of literature?
Some of the major voices and writers of post-colonial expression, I think, include Salman Rushdie's Midnight's Children, 1981, Isabel Allende's The House of the Spirits, 1982, Jamaica Kincaid's A Small Place, 1988, Amitav Ghosh's The Shadow Lines, 1988, and so on. These writers write to establish their individual identity independent of their colonizer and try to show that not only they have gained independence from the latter, but successfully made the colonizer's language as a vehicle for creative expression.
How is The Shadow Lines a post-colonial text?
Let me tell you, Amitav Ghosh's novel, The Shadow Lines, is one of the prominent post-colonial novels because it is set in the post-colonial India and is also one of Ghosh's finest works.
What are the features of post-colonial literature in The Shadow Lines?
Shadow Lines has quite a lot of post-colonial features, such as an element of the incredible and bewilderment of time and space, dislodgement, a sense of loss and reminiscence, and disintegration of individuality, which is the common ground of post-colonial discourse. The vast scope of the novel in terms of time and space, straddling 3 generations and stretching over 3 countries, seems to invite carrying out tests with the post-colonial narrative technique. Most of the post-colonial literature has third-person narrative, but Amitav Ghosh in The Shadow Lines portrays the narrator as a participant in the story.
You all know the very title of Shadowland relates to a key concern of post-colonialism, that is of border and boundary lines and their illusionary nature. The title emphasizes on obscurity of existing borders. Post-colonial criticism examines man-made borders as efforts to identify a particular group as against another group. This is predominantly true of the India as an independent nation with the partition of 1947 which drew imaginary lines with outward India and also causing much fatality from the consequential riots.
We also see the novel sketches few historical events like the freedom movement in Bengal, the Second World War, the partition of India in 1947, and the spontaneous communal ignition in the form of riots in Bangladesh and India, and so on. But the novel is not a bare and bland recapitulation of those overwrought past movements. Instead, it captures the trauma of emotional split and rift as also the determined perspectives of the blockade within people sundered by biased politics.
The storyline of the novel is woven around two families, the family of Datta Chaudhary of Bengal and the family of Prince of London and the anonymous narrator's association with them. The storyteller from his early days comes into close contact with them and thus is able to knit jointly the different strands of their association. Tridib is almost an alter ego of the narrator. Tridib had given me worlds to travel in and had given me eyes to see with them. He taught him to use his imagination with precision. Hence, though the novel has a first person narration, but it is not the narrator's life that is narrated, but to a large extent it is his uncle's Tridib's life and experiences that is what narrated in the novel. In 1939, 13 years before I was born, my father's aunt Maya Devi went to England with her husband and her son Tridib.
So the action of the novel thus starts with the 8 years old Tridib being taken to the England in 1939 and ends in 1964 when he is murdered by a street rebel in Dhaka. The novel narrates the action taking place in 1939 to 40, 1960 to 63 and 1978 to 79 in a chaotic way. But the storyteller concentrates on these reminiscences in the 1980s and work on these distorted fragments into a consistent stretch to stage post-colonial situations as well as cultural dislocations and anxieties and presents the issue of split nationalities in close and telling encounters for good measures.
We also find that even if the narrator begins with a passage of time in colonial India when the narrator was not even born, it embraces a good deal of post-colonial movements. Maya Devi's visit to London, her intimate contact with the Price family, and the Tridib-May relationship, transcending the shadow lines of nationality and cultural boundaries from the major concerns of the novelist. Amitav Ghosh looks at a mysterious pull between Tridib and May and the unshakable tie between the two families, confronting remoteness and physical frontier even as the country they belonged to were rutted against each other.
Narrator says the simple fact that there had never been a moment in 400-year-old history of that map when the places we know as Dhaka and Calcutta were more closely bound to each other than after they had drawn their lines so closely that I in Calcutta had only to look into mirror to be in Dhaka, a moment when each city was the inverted image of the other, look into an inversible symmetry by the line that was to set us free our looking glass borders.
Ghosh questions the infatuated affirmation of dissimilarity because of physical borders and celebrates the union of aliens pulled together by self-propelling compassion and affection. All the major associations and relationships in the novel rise above the existing fervor and chauvinism, ethnic detestation and communal bad blood springing from a escalating of boundaries and restrictions, that is, a conflict of national and cultural particularities. Ghosh has also given post-colonial view to his characters while portraying them.
So we can say that Ghosh is a post-colonial author.
Ghosh is a very post-colonial author. He dexterously employs all the post-colonial narrators' actions and behavior in this novel. Ghosh provides his discerning voice to the other, the people inhabiting the marginal recesses of empire, for they are often his protagonists. Ghosts, the shadow lines, also subverts official version of history and provides ideological resistance to totalizing political discourses. Hence, the sordid mechanizations of politicians continue to divide Hindus and Muslims in post-colonial time and led to bloodshed and death. The lines which colonial cartographers had drawn through the Indian landmass throw their dark shadow on events in decolonized India and Pakistan.
Since the narrator seems to be an alter ego or voice of Ghosh, it is worth to see Ghosh's academic background in this context. Ghosh received a BA in history, a MA in sociology, and a PhD in social anthropology. That he has crossed the disciplinary boundaries among history, sociology, and archaeology is pinpointing of his immense concern in interdisciplinary. The practice of interdisciplinary can be said to have close bearing to that of postcolonialism. For one thing, as Brecher said, postcolonialism is a heterogeneous field of study. In this point, the shadow lines is highly worth reflecting upon as one of those texts, given that the author aims at domesticating himself by bringing under control his narrator in post-colonial India. As a post-colonial writer, Ghosh has invented his own story without yielding to the stories invented by or imitating the description of the British canon. Along with quite a lot of post-colonial features, the Shadow Lines has a figurative strain which is particularly evident in the discussion of many other present-day post-colonial writers.